Hey YouTube, my name's Steph and my partner is a collector, which makes me a collector by proxy. So today I want to talk about a game that I recently watched Andrew play, and that is Dead Space 2. So just a quick little history about the game. Dead Space 2 is the sequel to Dead Space, which was a AAA title. Survival horror first-person shooter released in 2008. Dead Space 2 was then released in 2011, and then the third Dead Space was released in 2013. They were all developed by Visceral Games and published and owned by EA. And we have a remake of Dead Space coming in 2023. Now, I don't want to talk too much about the synopsis of this game and the overall storyline of the three games, because I actually came into Dead Space 2 without having seen Dead Space 1, and also what really got me through this game was not knowing anything. So if you want a synopsis or like a recap of these games, go to a different YouTube channel, watch it. This is just going to be my thoughts and experiences of just going in blind to Dead Space 2. Andrew had played Dead Space, the original Dead Space, back when it first got released in 2008 or 2009. He played it maybe, but anyways, he played it when the game was like hot back in the day, and then he bought Dead Space 2 and Dead Space 3 and then never ended up actually playing them. It kind of, the whole game just dropped off his radar. Now, back in those days too, I was a huge first-person shooter person. Like, I loved playing first-person shooters, but survival horror, absolutely not. So I had seen the trailers for those games. I knew the hype of those games, but I was like, I cannot handle horror. I am never going to play those games. So when Andrew said for Halloween he wanted to play Dead Space 2, I was like, okay, have fun. I'm not interested in that. But then I kind of decided, and he did ask me, he's like, I want to play with you. I want it to be like an experience. And I was like, yeah, I should embrace spooky season, and like, how scary can it actually be? Like, I've watched Andrew play Outlast, I've watched Alien Isolation, and while those games were absolutely terrifying and I couldn't handle them, I was like, this game was made a while ago, I can probably handle it. So my expectations was like, I'm going to be afraid, I'm going to be stressed out. And I remember seeing the trailers to that game, and I was just like, absolutely not. But I was like, I can handle it. I can handle this game. It's gonna be fine. So this game was released for Microsoft PC, PlayStation 3, and 360, which is the version that we have here. So we popped it in to our 360 and we played the game, or I watched Andrew play the game, and I tried my best not to backseat game, but I think he will tell you that I was absolutely relentlessly backseat gaming. He does his thing with the camera angles where he's always kind of like pointing at the ground, which was really unsettling for me for this game, because I was like, you need look up, like look around. There's monsters around. You need to look around, to stop pointing at the ground. And like, I think my stress just like kind of overwhelmed me. But anyways, let's talk about my experience of watching Andrew play this game. While this game is super gory, the monster design is absolutely terrifying. Like, the monsters are just grotesque and scary, and there's a lot of different versions of them. I don't think my main experience of this game was fear. I think it was just overall just stress. Like, I would describe my experience as, in one word, as just stressful. And I think because that this game is like so good at making you feel dread, like just absolutely dread, and it was so intense and just relentless. I think, like, even in those zones where like you've got a save point and you're like, okay, maybe I'm safe in this one spot, like, they hit you enough times in those spots where you think you're safe, then they go, oh, actually you're not. That you can never feel truly safe in any space in this game, which I think is fantastic for a survival horror game. But while I was watching this game, I would find myself just so, like, every muscle in my body was tense. Like, I think on the last time we played, I sat through this 3 times while Andrew played, and on like the 3rd sit, I found myself like in this weird position on the couch. I was like, my back was arched and I was just watching, and like I had been that way for like 5 minutes and I didn't even realize it because I was so stressed. This game is relentless and it does not stop. Like, it never lets up. It's just absolute dread, which I think for some people can be probably a bit like desensitizing in a way, and I think it got that way for me a few times, especially like the monster designs themselves didn't scare me anymore, but it was definitely that pace, that relentless pace, and also the sound design of this game was really the thing that really kept the stress up for me. And that's, I think, this, and like, I think that's, the sound design was absolutely fantastic. Like, this is the game that you want like a really well set up surround sound for, if not just so you can hear what's coming up behind you, but also so maybe you don't, because you constantly hear things coming up behind you and it's so stressful. Like, every creepy crawly, every breath, every moan, every little screech, it was just like, so stressful, and just, it was a little much at times. Also, the sound design really lent itself well to the jump scares that this game throws at you. I am an absolute sucker for a jump scare. Like, it's hilarious actually how, like, every time, like, any movie, the jump scare will get me, and this game got me. Like, I actually screamed at one point, because the sound, like, that dun-dun kind of sound that you would hear wasn't there, and you got it, and it was just like, oh! I screamed. And I think, actually, Andrew might deny it, but he definitely got hit a couple times too, where maybe not as dramatic as me, but he definitely got surprised at a few jump scares. So props to the sound design of this game. It was absolutely dreadful. It was terrifying. Enough about that. The graphics, again, are great. They're very good. I was actually surprised at how well this held up, because, like, a AAA game, you know, you expect good graphics even in 2011, but I was shocked at how good the graphics held up in this game. And maybe that's just because we've played some not so great graphic games. Maybe we do play a lot of indie games that maybe don't have that money behind them, but it was good. The graphics were great. The story is kind of generic. The characters are very bland. Like, they're there, they're one note, they're one purpose. And that's fine because it's more about the experience of the game, I think. But the story was meh. But I do have to say, it is also like the overall mystery of the game and what is going on around you, like with all of these monsters and stuff, that really made me want to keep coming back to watch Andrew play this game. Like, I was the one that was like, he was like, what movie do you want to watch tonight? I was like, you're playing Dead Space, so I can see how this ends. Like, all of this stress has to be worth it, and I have to be getting some answers here. And I think it pays off okay. Yeah, so again, a generic story, but I think a really good concept and like mystery going on around, which is why I'm not going to say anything about it, because I think if you're somebody who is like me and who's never played those games and doesn't know a lot about them, you'll get more out of it. Maybe. Now, other than the game being like, the characters being a little generic and like it being kind of like the story overall being kind of like meh, the only other like thing I would say I really noticed that didn't feel great about this game, other than the stress, which might have actually been a little cathartic at times, was the fact that it really does feel like you really notice the on-rails of this game. Like, you know, where like you're being led in a certain direction. There is a little bit of exploration you can go, like there's like, if you have the option of like going in the opposite direction down a hallway and like maybe finding some like ammo and stuff like that, but like this game really leads you and you really notice that. Now, for a game at that time, I think it's probably pretty standard. Like a lot of games, a lot of the campaigns of games in that time were very on rails. Like that's what you did. But I think I noticed it a lot now because I'm used to like a very different open world style game. Like any AAA title now is going to be big and expansive and you can kind of go anywhere. And I think that is something that you really don't feel great, maybe don't feel great about, but also do because like, you know where you're going, right? There's never a moment where you're like, I don't know where to go, because there it is. There it is. Woo! So anyways, I think overall, I personally would not play this game. Even as somebody who likes first-person shooters, I would say I'm much more of a cozy gamer now, and this game is not cozy. It is super stressful, super dreadful. For me, I think Andrew had a great time. He does love horror games, he loves playing it, but it is relentless. It's definitely a good one if you want to experience something scary for the spooky season, or if you just want to play a solid first-person shooter. But yeah, I personally will not play this game. However, I did have a lot of fun backseat gaming, and I did have a lot of fun watching and experiencing this game. So I definitely will watch when Andrew eventually plays Dead Space 3, and probably when the new game comes out, he'll grab it too. So yeah, I think the experience was good, but the game overall is probably not something that I would play. But anyways, thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed my thoughts and my thoughts on this game. If you've played this game before and had a similar experience to me or a completely different experience to me, please let me know in the comments below. I'd love to chat with you about the game. If you want to make fun of me for being a scaredy cat, by all means, you're not the only one who makes fun of me for that, so give her. Anyways, guys, thanks so much, and we'll see you next time. Bye!